What's going on, gamers? Today I'm going to be giving you some tips on how to climb the ranks in Valorant while solo queuing and what to do if you feel like your teammates are what is holding you back. With that being said, let's get right into it. First things first, let's address the elephant in the room. Whenever someone finds themselves hard stuck, they always default to saying, I would be ranking up if I didn't constantly get brain dead teammates who can't do anything. But I'd like to let you in on a little secret. Everybody gets those teammates, and not everybody is hard stuck. The difference between the people who are ranking up and the ones who aren't is that one group puts the blame on everything and anything but themselves, and the other group takes responsibility for what's going on and works towards fixing it. Now, I'm not saying that you're not getting bad teammates, because trust me, I've had my fair share of chimps disguised as Valorant ranked teammates. However, this does not happen every single game, and to say it does is a flat out lie. In any competitive game that you're playing, there are always going to be some games that you're going to win or lose regardless of what you do, and the rest of the games will be 100% up to you and how you perform. So the question is, how do we get the most out of every game we play, and how do we deal with shitty teammates when we do get them? Now, there are a couple different types of bad teammates that you could run into. Number one, teammates who are relatively good but are having a bad game. Number two, teammates who don't communicate at all. Number three, teammates who scream nonsense into the mic and are intentionally trying to throw or being toxic. And number four, teammates who are relatively new to the game and aren't quite sure on how to play the agent or the role that they have selected. And there are different things that you can try that will help you deal and play with these types of teammates. Let's talk about what to do if you have a teammate on your team who is relatively good at the game but is performing badly by whiffing all their shots or just having a rough game. The first thing you need to realize is this happens to absolutely everyone, including you. And you yourself have been this teammate. So don't lash out at them or become toxic towards them when they start making some bad plays or missing some shots, because that's going to do absolutely nothing to help the situation. Instead, do your best to encourage them. Hype them up when they do get a kill or when they make a good play. Sometimes all it takes to get your teammate out of a slump is some words of encouragement. Too often will people start to instantly flame their bottom frags for performing badly, and this will do absolutely nothing but make the situation worse. Which in reality doesn't mean that your team is the reason that you're losing. It actually means that you are, you just don't see it. So always keep that in mind, because even if your teammate is performing badly, there are things that are in your control that can make the situation either better or worse. And depending on how you react, you could end up winning or losing the game for your team. If you run into some teammates who aren't communicating at all, there are a few things that you can try and do to make the situation better. The first thing you can try to do is make a comfortable environment for them so that they do start to communicate. And that does not mean starting the game off by saying things like, does anyone have a mic? What, are you just scared to talk? What the fuck? Where are the comms? But instead, try approaching it in a more non-hostile manner. Starting the game off by saying things like, what's up? How's everyone's day going? And whenever you lose rounds, say things like, nice try team, or don't worry, we'll get them next time. A lot of people struggle from anxiety and don't want to talk over the mic. And if the only comms that they're hearing are negative and toxic, they most definitely aren't going to want to talk. So instead, always try and be kind and always try and lighten the mood even when you're losing. Because if your team is communicating and talking with each other, you're going to have a much higher chance of winning the game than you would if you're just running it down with no game plan. Now, if this doesn't work and they still don't want to communicate, you're going to have to take the game into your own hands. Try IGLing or making callouts, and always look at the minimap to see what your team is doing, play off of them by playing your role properly, and move around the map in regards to where they are going and what they are doing to give your team the best chance of winning, instead of just getting tilted and doing your own thing. Again, this is going to happen from time to time, so you can either let it get to you and definitely lose the game, or you can do your best to not let it get to you and do everything in your power to make an unwinnable game winnable. Now, let's talk about the worst type of teammate to deal with. The toxic, useless skin suits that are contaminating Valorant rank these days. If you run into a toxic teammate in Valorant, there are a couple things that you can try to do to make the situation better before you instantly mute them. The first thing you should try doing is not retaliating back at them. Instead of snapping on them, try and defuse the situation. If they say things like, wow, you guys are all terrible, try saying something like, yeah, we played that round pretty badly, let's try to play together next round. Or anything along those lines, instead of just snapping back and losing it on them. By doing this, you're not feeding into the toxic behavior, and you may just be able to diffuse the situation instead of making it worse. Too often do people instantly start lashing back out at their toxic teammates, and that does nothing but make the situation even worse. Instead, do your best to neutralize the situation and always try to be positive and encourage them when they're playing well, or say things like nice try when they don't win the round. By always staying positive, even in a toxic situation or towards a toxic person, you may be able to change their behavior and turn the tides of the game. If this doesn't help, then you can go ahead and just mute them and try to stay positive with the rest of your team. Because if they're not giving any useful communications and they're just making things worse, there's no reason for any of you to be listening to them. So ignore them, play with the rest of your team, and do your best to keep everyone else in a positive mood and stop them from becoming toxic as well, as this can sometimes lead you to even winning a game when one of your teammates is actively trying to make you lose it. And the last type of bad teammate that you could run into is someone who is relatively new to the game or doesn't quite know how to play the role that they have picked. And these are the easiest teammates to deal with. If you find someone who is struggling in game, do your best to try to give them some friendly advice. But make sure you're not going about it in a hostile way. Instead of saying things like, "What the hell? Why are you peeking that? What are you doing? Why are you throwing your smoke like that? Why don't you use a utility?" Try saying something like, "Hey, I noticed you're smoking a little shallow. I used to do that too. But I learned that smoking deeper makes it harder for the enemy team to push onto site." Just by slightly changing the way that you go about giving someone advice, you can drastically change the way they receive it and respond to it. Remember to always try and be a positive light in this dark ass world that we live in, regardless of what type of teammates that you run into. Because don't forget, at one point you were the new player as well, so by helping them out in a friendly way instead of being a dick about it, you may just end up making them play better and win a game that you thought was unwinnable. When you solo queue, you are essentially rolling the dice on what type of teammates that you're going to get. But regardless of who's on your team, there's always a way you can make things better and increase your chances of winning. And the best way for you to go about this is to not lose your mind when someone is performing badly, but instead shift your mindset and do your best to be positive always, even when things are looking bad. Valorant isn't just a game that relies on mechanics. It is extremely mental, which means even if your teammates are having a bad game at the start, you can shift the tide of the game by staying positive and doing everything in your power to keep your teammates in a good mood and focused on winning the game instead of attacking each other and becoming toxic. This is why I say even if you have bad teammates, you can still win and rank up. It all comes down to how you react and what you do to have impact for your team other than just performing in game. Because at the end of the day, it is inevitable that you will get bad teammates, but how you choose to deal with them will be the difference between winning or losing the game. Also, keep in mind that some games are going to be unwinnable regardless of what you do. And when you do lose these games, do not let that toxic and negative energy carry over into your next game, as this is going to do nothing but make you go on a massive losing streak. Too often do people lose a game, blame their teammates, queue up again, and then begin to snap on someone the second they make a bad play, which will inevitably make you become the bad teammate, lose the game, and begin to spiral downwards into nothing but bad games and bad teammates. If you find yourself losing too many games in a row, do not re-queue. Take a break or maybe play on an alt account, because continuing to queue and lose is going to do nothing but hurt your rank and your ego even more. Remember that you're always going to run into some bad teammates, but there's always something that you can do to make the game better for not just yourself, but for everyone else on your team as well. And being toxic and negative about your situations is not one of them. Thank you guys so much for watching, and if you got any value out of this video or you want to see videos like this in the future, feel free to hit that like button, sub to the channel, and ring that bell notification so that you can stay ahead of every other gamer and unlock your full potential. Much love guys, hopefully I'll see you in the next one.